A new day, a new project, and let's talk about headphones. You see, headphones are dynamic loudspeakers. They are exactly like a normal loudspeaker. What that means, let's say we have a magnet, and here we have a cylinder with, of course, magnetic properties, and around the cylinder we have a moving coil, and this coil is connected to a membrane. Let's say one end and the other end of the coil. When apply a current of any kind, then the coil will go in and out, depends of the intensity of the current. So doing all these movements in and out, here we have air moving in and out, and that transform the membrane movings to a sound vibration, to a air vibration. You know, the vibration in the air is going like this, like a snake, let's call it. It's the same idea like you know, when you are throwing a stone into a very clear water, then you have suddenly all those round circles going out from the impact point. The same story with the sound. So the sound is going through the air exactly in the same way. The sound is generated, of course, by the moving coil. So this is a dynamic loudspeaker. And of course the headphones, they are working exactly in the same way. We have the magnet here, we have the coil outputs, and if we take a look, I can't take this off because it's glued, but if you take a look, here is the membrane. You can see it. It's that plastic thing, and you can see the coil with the red wire. So that one is the electromagnet, call it, pushing the membrane in and out, you know, to form those audio waves. Okay, how can I check this? So this is a loudspeaker, exactly the same idea, the same principles. If we apply a current to the coil, these are evidently plus and minus from the coil. Usually red, it's plus. All we need now, if we don't have any multimeter or anything like that, you know, testing instruments, ohm meter and stuff like this, you can use a simple battery like this, and if the loudspeaker is okay, or the headphones element it's okay, then we should hear a beep. I don't know if you can see that, but that's a very clear moving upwards. That means we have the right polarity. That's the way a loudspeaker or a headphones loudspeaker should work. But like I said before, usually the red wire it's plus, and if you have headphones, they are usually marked, so that is plus. So let's go to the next step. Headphones connectors. We can have different kind of connectors. Let's say this is a 3.5 millimeter connector. That's usually feeding this kind of headphones, you know, small headphones. But even the big ones, like my big trusted Sony, they have this kind of 3.5 connector. Let's take a look the way they are organized. So let's say this is the tip, isolation, the second ring, isolation, and the third ring. Usually this one is the ground, the big one or the closest one to the plastic. Let's check this out. So I have my headphones here. No, I have to put this on my head and to see for real. So let's measure this. We have the ground. I said the ground, it's this one near the plastic, the big one, the big ring. Well, it was exactly the other way. The top, it's always left. The top it's left, and the second ring it's right. Of course, some of the headphones have a third ring, and that's usually for the microphones, but generally it's exactly the same way. If you have a multimeter, that will make the things very, very easy, because you just go to ohm meter, like I'm doing now here, We get the voltmeter, the inside ring, let's call it inside, and we have the right can, the right headphone, and the left one. So probably this is not the ground in our case. Sometimes the ground is here, the third ring. Let's check this. Normally we should have around, let's say, from 15 ohms to 600, depends on the headphones, but normally it's around 15, 20, maximum 30. Like I said, 31 ohms, right can, left can, or headphone. So the point is, when you have this kind of connector, you should check if the ground it's number 3 or it's number 4. Some of the models, they have the ground here. Some other models, they have the ground on the third ring. It's not the same all the time. In our case, we have the ground here on number 3. If we call it 1, 2, 3, 31 ohms, 32.3. Okay, let's check my Sony headphones here. So this is a very, I can call it a classic, this is a very classic ground near the plastic, 30 ohms, and this is Sony MDR V700, 28.4. Well, it can be a kind of difference, a very small difference in between loudspeakers. That shouldn't be a problem. That's not a problem. Okay, now let me check this one. This one, it's a replacement element or a headphone for my Sony, and we have 32.9, 33.0. This is not original, so it's absolutely fake. The sound is pretty good. Now let's talk about what you can do when you don't have a multimeter. Well, I just give you an idea. It's almost impossible for us, to have any kind of thermometer or remote control or anything which can hold a battery in place. Simply grab a piece of wire like this, get it to the plus, the other side get it to the minus. Come on. And here we go. We improvised a tester. We should hear the sound very clear. Fortunately, these headphones already have marked plus and minus. You can see here we have a plus, and we got the sound. So that's the first step for checking if the element, if the loudspeaker itself is good. In our case, this is good. Okay, let's check these little ones. I said number 3, it's the ground. So both of them are good. Let's say, let's imagine that one of the headphones is not working anymore. The first thing we have to do is to check the wire, because most of the cases the problem is in the connector. This connector here so many times gets broke. The wire gets broke, and this is a very simple way to do that. But that means destruction. So unfortunately, you have to cut the wire like I did. And now we have a lot of wires here. Usually they're uncovered. I mean, this one, it's the ground for both loudspeakers and for the microphone. All we have to do now is to get this isolation out. Oh, let me have this out of the way. You can even try to burn it with a little torch. Oh, yes. And then, nice and easy, try to clean the tip of the wire, because we need to check each of them one by one. Okay, let's suppose these are cleared and we have an electric contact. And now let's take the battery and connect each of them. Let's start with the green one. It's very possible to have the green one connected to the ground and nothing. Of course, we don't have the power. Now, okay, so one of the headphones is good. Which one? This one. Yeah, this is good. Next. I think this is the microphone. And here we are. The other one is working too. So okay, success. So this is the most simple way to analyze if the wires are okay. All we have to do now is to replace the headphones connector. Okay, if you don't have a replacement soldering tools, soldering skills or anything else, you just grab another pair of headphones, bad sounding or broke or something, and just take the wires away or take the wires apart and do exactly like I did with this one. Put them together, a little bit of isolation, and they should work again. So the first scenario, it's very clear. Of course, much simpler, much easier, and I really recommend you to buy a multimeter. They are so cheap. That's $5 or something anyway. A multimeter, it's always good in the house. Green should be the ground. Multimeter on ohms, resistance mode, and we have the first can. Look there. Oh, that was the microphone, of course. 32 ohms, 62 ohms. How comes? No. So this is a can, one of the cans, one of the headphones. 32 ohms. We should have 32 here too. But it's looking now, we are in series. It's looking like the ground, it's yellow. Like I said, for the first time. 31, now yellow and red. 33, okay. So the ground, it's yellow. I was right from the first time. But sometimes it's green, The first scenario, it was about a bad cable, usually near the connector. Right here, here is the problem most of the time. Now, let's have the other scenario. Let's have one of these little headphones open, if I can. Yeah, of course I can. So, here we have the headphone. This is very simple. Be sure that in our case now, it's kind of impossible to realize which is plus, which is minus. But like we saw before, we had here yellow for the ground and red for plus. That's for sure. So in our case, this is plus. Remember that. We have plus on the left, on my left. So, let's say one of these wires, or one of those wires, get broke, but not to the connector. Here somewhere. What we can do? We are doing exactly the same thing. Now I'm afraid that you need to have some skills, soldering tools and stuffs like this. There is no other way to fix this. Okay, so let's say one of the wires got disconnected or broke or anything else. Now, with this improvised testing instrument, let's check the headphone. So we apply 1.5 volts here. Yeah. I can hear the sound. So that means the headphone is good. If we go like this, of course, we got no sound. With this simple battery, it's almost impossible to find if the cable have a continuity. But we can do something else. If you have a spare headphone, let me use this guy. We can improvise a testing tool. Very simple. We just put in series the loudspeaker. Let me have it on plus. You see, we just put it in series. And now we can check the continuity of the wire without a multimeter. Let's say that we need to check the red connection. We go here to the red. You see, we have the red. And the other side here. And we should hear the loudspeaker beeping. No power. There we go. So that means the wire, the red wire from here to there, it's absolutely okay. Now let's go to the yellow and check it here. So the yellow is good. In our case, the wires are good. So there is no problem with the wire. If we don't have sound, that means the headphone itself is broke, burnt or something. If we have the sound here, but nothing through the wires, that means the wires are bad. And this is a very simple way to improvise a measuring tool. Once again, so you just connect the battery in series with a good headphone. Here go. Of course, we check for the sound before. Okay, we are good to go. And now let me see if I can check the headphone, the little one too. Just connect this to the headphone connector there. We should hear the sound. Yeah. I can call this a kind of acoustic continuity tester. Very simple to improvise. Let me draw that for you. So let's say we have a battery, plus, minus. We have a wire. Here we have the loudspeaker. And here we have the testing points, plus and minus. When these are open, of course, when you put them together, we have a sound over here. So everything else in between, of course, small resistance, another loudspeaker or things like this, will have a current through the circuit, and the loudspeaker in this case will beep. That's just in case you don't have a multimeter around. Okay guys, so finally I hope this was useful, and let's have a kind of recap. No more sound, one of the headphones is broke or something. You should start first checking the connection. Usually when you move this, you have how can I say, you have a sound, a bad connection sound, and then you can clearly find which is wrong. Then it can be a wire somewhere smashed, cut or something, and one of the headphones is not working anymore. I showed you how to improvise a testing tool, a very simple testing tool, battery and another loudspeaker or headphone. You check the element itself, the sound element, the headphone itself with the battery for sounds. If it sounds, that's the cable, the problem is the cable, and that's how you can test and improvise a testing tool for fixing your headphones. But most of the cases the problem is here, or it can be here, because moving and smashing things, and stuff like this. I rarely encounter a broke headphone cell, broke element like this. I mean, you really need to push it. You need a lot of power, to break something like this or to burn something like this. Normally or usually it's the cables or the connector. The best way to check these things is to buy yourself a cheap multimeter on ohms, and you have a very clear idea about also the resistance of your headphones. A multimeter, it's always good in the house. You can even check. Okay, we are on volt now. Let's check the battery. 1.49, a very good battery, of course. So my advice is to buy yourself a multimeter. They are so cheap today. So I hope it's useful. If you have comments, write them down. I'll be happy to answer to all of your questions. And please like and subscribe, and let me hear your ideas, your opinion, And the most important thing, don't forget to have fun. Bye bye.